Hi, I'm Movie Man. I'm an octopus who reviews movies, and today's review is going to be on. So, I went to see Kung Fu Panda 4 a few days ago now. Now, if you guys remember my most highly anticipated movies of 2024 video, which I did back around the start of January, then you may remember that I put Kung Fu Panda 4 on my list because, um, because I was generally very excited for this film. Um, obviously, I grew up with those first three Kung Fu Panda movies because I'd seen all three Kung Fu Panda movies as a kid, and well, I really enjoyed them all as a kid, and yeah, on rewatch, I think they're all honestly very good films, especially the second one, which is, in my opinion, the best. And I was excited for the fourth installment. It was nice that we were actually getting a fourth movie because it has been 8 years now since Kung Fu Panda 3 came out. So yeah, it has been 8 years now since the last Kung Fu Panda movie. And I mean, I think the trailers did look quite promising. The only concern that I had with it was that, the Furious Five, they weren't really gonna have like huge roles in the movie. But I still looked forward to the film regardless. Now, the film was released 3 weeks ago now in America, and yeah, I had seen the reviews for it. I mean, they did get a generally positive reception from critics, but I did hear some fans, saying that, it's not very good, that's disappointing, the weakest movie in the series. I had heard all of those, but I still wanted to go see the movie for myself, see what I thought of it, and well, I went to see it a few days ago now, as I said. In my opinion, I do think this is a good movie. Let me just say that right now. In my opinion, I do think it is a good film, but I will say though, I am a little disappointed with it. As I said, it is a good film. It is a pretty good movie, a solid film, but yeah, out of all the films on my most highly anticipated list video that have come out at the moment, let's just say this is definitely the weakest so far. Yeah, so to get into my thoughts on Kung Fu Panda 4, I will start by saying this. The animation in the film, I think it is good. I do think it is a very well animated movie. Well, I mean, it's from DreamWorks, so it's not really a surprise, but yeah, I do think the movie is honestly a very nice film to look at. It is a really well animated movie. I do kind of notice that like the art style I feel kind of is a slight bit different from some of the other movies. Like I've noticed I noticed in the movie that the animation kind of did change a bit, but to be fair, I do think that does make sense, as you know, it has been 8 years since the last movie. Um, and yeah, so it kind of would make sense that, the film would kind of look a bit different, that it would be, kind of a bit differently animated. So, yeah, overall, I would say the animation in the movie is very good. The pacing in this film is not too bad. Like, I mean, it's not a very long film. It's 94 minutes, which makes this out of the four movies the second longest, just behind 3. But yeah, it would make sense that, they'd have this movie be around 90 minutes because, well, pretty much all of the Kung Fu Pandas are like around 90 minutes long. But yeah, I thought like the pacing in the film, I don't think it was too bad. I kind of felt like maybe the movie could like feel a bit long in parts. I don't know. I don't really think the pacing was like exactly the smoothest, but I feel like it was paced, well enough. I thought it was overall paced pretty evenly with the story. So I think the pacing in the movie is pretty good. The score in the movie, I think, is honestly pretty good. I do like that they brought back Hans Zimmer to, compose the score again alongside some other guy named Steve Mazzaro. And in my opinion, I think the score overall is pretty good. I don't think it's one of Hans Zimmer's best. Like, it's not as good as his score for Dune Part 2 earlier in the month, and yeah, I don't know if it's as good as his score for Kung Fu Panda 3, but overall it is still a solid score. And also I just need to point out, in case you haven't heard it, in this film, during the end credits, we get a cover of Britney Spears' "Hit Me Baby One More Time," sung by Tenacious D, and oh boy, if you haven't listened to it yet, I highly recommend you to do so. Oh boy, it actually slaps. So yeah, overall I think the music in the movie is pretty good. Now we get to the characters. Starting things off with Paul. Paul, once again, I think he is a good protagonist. And I think he has a solid arc in this film. I don't think it's his best arc out of all the movies. Definitely not as good as his arc in 2, but he still has a good arc in the movie. I thought he was still a likable and entertaining protagonist, and Jack Black once again is very good as always. So I did like Paul as a character in this film. We have returning from the other movies, Master Shifu. Um, I mean, I'll be honest, Master Shifu, he didn't really have a huge role in this film. He was in the film for a bit of it in the first act. He's in the movie for the first 10-15 minutes, but eventually after that, once Poe and Jen head out on their journey, he doesn't really appear that much in the film afterwards, so he has a pretty small role in the movie, but I think he is solid in the film, even if he's not at his best in the movie. It was nice to see him again, and I thought Dustin Hoffman once again did solid enough for what he was given. I thought he got back into the character after 8 years pretty well. We also have returning are both of Poe's dads, his adoptive father Mr. Ping and his biological father Li Shang. Now the two of them, they were both in this movie actually a bit more than I thought. There's basically, they have this whole subplot about how they both go on this journey to find their son. And I'm not gonna lie, it was actually a pretty entertaining subplot. Yeah, I did like the both of them as characters in this film. I found them both to honestly be quite entertaining. We also have Tai Long back as well. Well, kind of, because I know, really it's the chameleon, taking his form, but we do see the return of Tai Long in this movie, and without getting too much into it, it was cool to see Tai Long again. And it is great that they brought back Ian McShane to voice him again, and Ian McShane, I think, did a pretty good job coming back after 16 years. Now, I'll be honest, with Tai Long's character, now I won't give away any spoilers, I won't, get into, anything that happens with Tai Long in the movie, but what I will say, though, what they did with his character in the end, I wasn't really a huge fan of, I'll admit. Again, now also it was cool to see Tai Long again, but yeah, I'll be honest, what they did with his character in the end, I wasn't really a huge fan of. Now, in terms of the new characters we have in this movie, now our main new character is Jen, who is the little fox who goes on this journey with Paul. Jen, I think, was a solid character. She was a pretty entertaining character. I thought she was a fun character. I feel like her whole dynamic with Paul, I enjoyed it enough. I thought it was solid, not great, but I enjoyed it enough. Now, kind of some things that they do with her character in the third act, I wasn't really the biggest fan of. I still relatively liked her as a character, and I thought Awkwafina, who is pretty much getting cast in like every animated movie at this point, Awkwafina was solid enough in this role. Not great, but you know, overall, I thought Jen was a solid enough character. We get like a few other kind of side characters, like we have like this whole like underground of like criminals and stuff, and they're led by a pangolin named Han, who's voiced by Huy Quan. Um, yeah, like I think they were all solid enough characters. I thought they were all pretty entertaining. They had some funny moments. Um, Now we get to the main villain of the movie, the chameleon, and yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I was a bit disappointed with the chameleon as a villain. Like, don't get me wrong, she does have a cool design, and I do think Viola Davis does a very good job voicing her, but unfortunately, I do think that the chameleon is like easily the weakest villain in the franchise. Like, I was like, I mean, she was kind of menacing enough, but like, I felt she didn't really have like that proper like scene which kind of really displays how menacing she was, like compared to all the other villains in the series. And I felt like she just lacked that like intrigue, that that kind of that kind of feeling you get from the other villains. I felt the chameleon really lacks it. My big problem with the chameleon though was her backstory, her whole like motivation as to why she's evil. If you've seen this movie, then chances are you already know what I'm talking about. Without giving it away, it was honestly really stupid. It made no sense whatsoever. And yeah, so unfortunately, I do think the chameleon was a letdown as a villain, unfortunately. So overall, I think the characters, while not great, are pretty solid enough for the most part, and I do think the voice acting here is very solid. Uh, in terms of the plot of the movie, like the plot of the film, uh, where like it's Paul, he meets up with Jen and they go on this like journey to find the chameleon, like the main villain. Now like I mean it is a solid enough concept. And like there's and of course in this film we have like that's like Paul is about to be the spiritual leader of the Valley of Peace, and he basically has to find a new dragon warrior. Um, I mean, I found that whole aspect of the plot to be, pretty interesting. I mean, it definitely does have a pretty solid concept, and I think for the most part, it has like a pretty solid execution. Like I don't think it was particularly great though, because like I mean, like at times, the movie kind of feels a bit similar to some of the other movies in the series. Like for example, there's some like lines of dialogue between Poe and Shifu, which felt honestly quite identical to like some of their dialogue in three. Uh, like I mean, it was. I mean, I do think it was a solid enough plot. So I think again the movie did a good enough job with this. Um, some things I feel do kind of bring it down though in the third act, like like with kind of there's a few twists in the third act, like with Jen or like why the chameleon is evil. So again, I found them to be like not that great. Kind of did ruin narrative, not really, but kind of did bring the plot down a bit. I feel it was still overall a pretty solid plot. I don't think it has quite the best execution. Now, the film does kind of make up for this a bit because there is quite a few action sequences in the movie, and I'm not gonna lie, I do think the action sequences are genuinely pretty fun, and they do kind of make up for the narrative not really being at its full potential. But yeah, overall, I think the plot is solid enough. It kind of, I feel the action sequences and like some of the humor in the film kind of does make up for it a bit because there is some pretty good humor. Like, I'm not gonna lie, there were generally some pretty funny moments in the film. As I feel like they were entertaining and they did make up for, again the plot not really living to its full potential. But yeah, overall it was not great, but still solid enough. They did kind of make up for it, I feel. In terms of the narrative structure, we have like our main plot with Paul and Jen going to find the chameleon. Not really the most like kind of straightforward, simple plot, but well, it's kind of it's very simple, but like it's kind of I don't know, it's kind of like there's not really that much kind of levity to it. I feel, but it is an entertaining plot, because there's a lot of like fun action sequences and some generally pretty good humor, as I've said. As I mentioned, there's kind of this whole subplot with how like Poe is gonna become the spiritual leader and he needs to find a new dragon warrior now. The movie does kind of ignore it after the first act in order to focus on Poe's journey with Jen. But I still feel like it is still a solid enough plot, even if I don't really feel like it was really executed to its full potential. However, as I said, the whole subplot with Poe's dad's going to find his son is a genuinely pretty entertaining subplot. There is actually some good humor during those scenes. But then of course you have the whole plot with the chameleon, which kind of doesn't really get much focus until the third act, but yeah, I wasn't really the biggest fan of that plot with how it all went out, especially with that whole backstory with the chameleon. So yeah, with all these plots, I think they come together pretty well enough. Not exactly the best, but I do think most of the plots are decent, if not great. Like the chameleon subplot aside, I do think the film has a solid enough narrative structure, even if it's not exactly great. But yeah, so I think the narrative structure is not great, but solid enough. So overall, Kung Fu Panda 4 was a pretty good movie overall. It had some very good animation. It had some solid music. It has mostly solid characters. Good voice acting, action sequences, some good humor, and overall, I think it was a solid enough story the way it was told. But I won't deny it. I don't think this movie is great. I was a little let down with by this one because it did have some flaws, particularly with the chameleon. As I've said, I was very disappointed with the chameleon as a villain, and that backstory just made no sense. Um, Again, it is a good movie overall, but I wouldn't call it a great movie, and yeah, for me, I think this is easily the weakest movie in the franchise. So overall, a bit disappointing, but still a pretty solid movie overall. So with that, I'm going to give Kung Fu Panda 4 a 7 out of 10. So that, I'll see you guys next time, and bye.